I saw you in the street of that little grey town. Someone like you, someone like you, someone like you. Not you. And then I heard you say, this train took me away, be waiting for the next one. 'Cause I shall wait for you, my friend, it's true. And then you saw me cry, the tears, the sun will dry. Keep looking for a brighter one. And then I heard you shout, my friend, it's true. Someone like you, someone like you, someone like you. Not you. And then you said, awake, that train you should not take. Keep watching for the brighter one. Then I shall wait for you, my friend, it's true. And then you saw me cry, as tears, they soon will dry. Keep looking for a brighter one. And then I heard you shout, my friend, it's true. Homo Sapiens Illness Report. The way things stand on the 1st of January 2012. Obama has failed in the eyes of his former admirers. But what about the returns on capital? An ongoing flow. What did you expect? And the peoples of the earth are more indebted and enslaved than ever before. And a former secret agent pretends the financial crisis was nothing but a hype of the media, just like has been the avian flu. O tempora, O mores. It was in 2008 that I started to take notes of what I thought was really happening around me. Ever since, I didn't change one iota in the essence, though even Sloterdijk took another judging viewpoint and spoke his mind. As a matter of fact, it's all about long-term evolutions, not about trifles. Indeed, whatever is ahead, the old abuse of power games on earth will soon be gone forever. Only the how should be taken in consideration, not the what. Those ignorants who certainly will land their jokes about the more esoteric part of my writings, to them I only want to answer, wait and see. The more you ridicule such purposes today, the bigger your shame will be afterwards, realizing you didn't recognize the mood of the time. But much more dull-brained and inaccessible than these agnostics, in not foreseeable future will be the mainstream pedants, who, once the dust has settled, will stretch their arms to the sky, plainting, "My God, my Lord, didn't we pray enough? And where our gifts and our singing in praise for you, for your eternal glory in our ecumenical ceremonies too less and too seldom? I do not know you." So may probably be the answer from above. And even leaving aside the Most High from a rational economical point of view, that what the community of Occidental values carriers has been performing there was and is even more stupid than what those dumb peasants mucked up, eating their sowing seeds. When the dust has settled or taken by the wind, what does that mean? Yes, what will be the next phase after that methodical madness? Let me give a hint. The silent barbarism. No, on earth things are not getting more silent at all. That useless sound mess around us will become a brasher than it already hurts our ears. Yet the barbarism itself, soundless. And the ones responsible for it will be snatched up by the devil, in whatever disguise the latter may manifest himself. The essence of the illness. Economics, slick and pervert. First booklet. Liberty, freedom. Hans Olaf Henkel, a former president of the German CEO organization, the BDI, and an uncurable market economy romantic, declared the present economical and social state of organization worldwide to be the best history has ever seen before. Confronted with the question why he couldn't see the gap between arm and rich was getting larger and larger, he contested, still a bit more dashing than usual, the lower levels of society never had been so plainly sustained by the uppers, weren't the latters paying for at least 3/4 of the income taxes. This way of seeing things became the widespread intellectual common sense, even in the last book of Sloterdijk. Sloterdijk, the philosopher. A concept of counter-argumentation from Werner von Tobel was published in the Süddeutsche Zeitung on 16 October 2009. But who read that? It was in the rear of the feuilleton. Indeed, in the undergrowth of conceptual chaos, the still understandable version of the truth will have a very hard job to free itself without too much scratch damage. And if everything keeps on frizzing and creeping and ruffling, like it creeps and runs and ruffles, the Tower of Babel will soon have argued itself into the stratosphere. At the same time, it becomes clear, like the nose on our faces, that the economic flooding into the language conquered everybody's mind behind that nose. Even in the second last fortress of defense, the philosophy. One could also say the society corpus is soaked with cancer. Extended diagnosis, economy cancer. Metastasis is already ravaging main organs, all main organs, except the heart. My way of talking in these writings will be a different one. That of the little fellow from the fairy tale that pointed out his finger, his little finger, exclaiming, "But this emperor, he is naked." Yet my king has clothes, camouflage dress. He is the upper representative of not even 1% of world's population, which oblige the rest of them, I mean the 99%, to kid themselves day after day. Oblige? No, much more terrifying. They convinced them. Can that be true? It is. And there may be a further, still more fascinating item that make one shiver. The conclusion that the longer the experts are juggling with that glorified mathematic joystick, the less mankind is finding real solutions for the mass of problems it has to compete with nowadays. How difficult it became to try to keep the central red thread between the fingers. Nothing but pulling and bickering around in the oven of names, right, left, center, left, and so on. Ideal soil for mass manipulation. Dear Populus, how to save you? So, and only so, the results of the last elections can be explained, where it was exactly the party boosting that which basically was responsible for all those hanky-panky that disturbed the fundamentals of the financial system. It was a shock, a deep jolt for many well-intended people. Not deep enough yet for those who already guessed beforehand that this game soon would be over, as the soiled tabletop would be replaced by a totally new one. Among them, public figures like Paul Volcker, Obama, now and then, Putin, Is it a load? And also unknown pieces like me and you too, so I hope soon. For all bipedal, approximately upright walking earthlings, anxious to call themselves in the future humans rather than consumers or taxpayers or any other sort of egomaniac post-chimpanzees, there are two questions to which the answer becomes urgent. The first, what is the sense of it to live and die on earth? The second, how could this impasse arrive? The second, it is relatively simple. Increasingly, since the 18th century of enlightenment, men learned to think more and more in abstract terms, going complicated, virtuoso, brilliant somehow. On the other hand, he seems to have got unable to create the least of a solution for the whole of it, except if he is talking about technique, informatics, narrow gauge physics, or anorganical chemistry. All those branches have lost the real connection with living nature, so, as an exception, they lose their meaningfulness. The financial crisis proved that in full scale, even to the last adapting brain, as far as such a brain is able or willing to comprehend and accept that. In fact, there is a big difference between good thinking and good thoughts, light thoughts, like light presence. Figuratively speaking, good thinking is able, by long searching and feeling and guessing, to give an approximate impression of how a darkened room looks like and how it is furnished. Good thoughts do the same, much more accurate and complete in a wink of an eye, by switching the light. Thinking tries to find its way in a complex labyrinth. Thoughts elevate and detect the exit. Easy done. Thinking is static, thought dynamic. Means, if thinking decided to follow a track, it is possible the passage is blocked by a canyon across the landscape with no bridge in sight. Thought tracks, on the contrary, are often blessed with synchronicity, which can be described as a simultaneous decision in another human's brain to build or to repair a blown down bridge or to construct a wonderful passerelle at the ominous spot. That will not be the result of the invisible hand of the market, since the latter is only in practice when the demand is for Potemkin PR pontoons. How an elephant looks like. Ask thinking and ask thought. Thought starts with a search of a higher point of view, and if it doesn't find, is backing away a bit, surrounding the animal, in order to get a more total impression of it. For thinking, on the other hand, such patience is unbearable. He runs forward. It runs forward, and the Rukius is already teaching. An elephant has 2 eyes, 2 ears, tusks, and 1 long trunk. The whole of it on 2 paws. Nonsense, yells the second. It has 4 paws, 1 trunk, and 1 tail, but no eyes at all. What you tell, suffers the third. The legs, the tail, yes, but everything else is wrong. Wasn't it amazing that the last guy won the game? Perhaps because already at the start, most of the students choose to follow him. Seems as if the rear part of the elephant is the most exciting, or perhaps the warmest. Anyhow, in that sphere of curiosity, long afterwards, a Dutch studiosus examiner placed a lens, and this act cleared the way to everyone's principle. An elephant that is a giant anus, 1,000 times. An elephant that is a gigantic anus, 1,000 times proved. No wonder if ever since of that noble animal we merely studied the manner and the farts, quantified, mathematized through unnumbered modelized formulas. And the double glass construction of that Dutch researcher mutated into a microscope, electronized, soon photonized. Let us leap now to the second question. What is it all about? Has it a purpose? What is mankind? Where do we come from, and towards which finalities we aim? Mother, what are we living for? Such questions should find priority into the settlement of every meaningful education program. First of all, in the instruction of what they call the future leading upper class sprouts. By now, there are enough examples of what is normally happening in that zone. Over Bachelor Zurich, further on to London Vanity Master School, where in the library's documents and sites, many of the information disappeared or was gated away, while the most shrewd took them aside, so competitors might have a retardation. Competition, impious playground, rats and snakes crawling on it. And on the summit of that phony construction, in that polluted pecking order cavern, the jokers, the joker player Jekyll Hydes. Ailing souls are they. One should help them, heal them urgently, instead of pushing them into those pole positions. No, not by organizing ethic symposiums. Such gatherings are much too stilted, too sterile. Matter of sense, seriously taken in consideration, belongs in history courses. During the 2 start hours of a new day, like on the sunny side of the Waldorf school, awakening into a new fresh morning which has broken like the first morning. On the blackboard, written in old-fashioned chalk, the following sentence: "Human, extraordinary being, to which horizons you are allowed and free to go, into better places than those of your self-destruction. Here and now your real history." In the beginning was God, Goddess, the source, the purest love, the brightest light. Light and love on any level demand for an antagonist at eye level who, without feeling obliged to anything, responds to that love in return. Certainly in the nearest neighborhood of the highest one, wonderful beings had manifested themselves, but in spite of their completeness, all of them missed the one and only defining disposition: freedom of choice. Out of that lack and desire, the goddess outlined a love plan. In the habitat area of a sparkling angelic creature, a being would be put in the scene that was allowed to develop in full freedom, at first in taking a certain distance to its creator, and eventually, if it could manage, to find and go all the way back to the father and mother again. Homeward bound to the eternal love again. What an adventure! What an adventure! Indeed, then with each new incarnation in the middle of a muddy matter, even getting mustier with the invented time running, the 2 playgrounds of this search for the Holy Grail, that soul being would forget all about its light-filled descendants. This adventure is the actual main track in man's history. Once it was his story, another time her story, and that on several planets, until at last on Earth, on Gaia, at the beginning of the 3rd millennium after the lifetime of the Master of Love. The rules of this experiment allowed it to send direct delegates from the source on the Earth rostrum, who could intervene with their message, and only with that, accelerating the process or corrugating the direction. That was not safe at all. For instance, the one mentioned before, he died on the cross. We, running here to and fro on the surface of our planet, you, me, your touchy or bad-mooded neighbor, your mobbing colleagues, friends, mothers-in-law, grandparents, enemies. We all are the heroes in this epos with unsure way out. Indeed, pure heroic courage is required, even to agree in willing to participate during such kind of venture. Thereupon, the fall The descent acquired an unexpected speed acceleration due partially to the meddling activity of a gang of renegades, a race that before had kicked themselves out of the normal ellipses of relative divinity. By the way, they are members of our grand family. They are brothers and sisters. But all's well that ends well. When the schooling period, the testing experience, the adventure come to an end, an examination is taking place in order to judge the inner maturity of the scholars. How many are they? Real humans, I mean. Viewed from the outskirts, it seemed rather deceiving, even scary, since a considerable lot of the class pupils was claiming to their right on living utmost freedom for their egocentric excesses with growing arrogance. Those blokes were becoming so annoying and unbearable that the others began to think the school principal left on an everlasting holiday. Desperated, some of them began to trigger and stir on their own account with elaborated and prescribed social directives from above, if necessary, with force and secret service. It was meant in good intention most of the time. Also, most of the time it ended in profound frustration. The honest one is the eternal victim of all that. This kind of sayings on banners one could see on every wall in every classroom. But appearances can be deceiving. Nothing is what it looks like. For who masters the skill to look behind the curtain, deep in the inner layers of the intention, declarations within the souls, for him another positive slogan was already sounding up from the pipeline. The honest ones will actually inherit the earth, just like promised. Because this experience, this project of humanity, is more than probably a success. What also means man is allowed to stay here as a species, a Homo, yet upgraded and, so it seems, solely upgraded. If you are a bad believer, prepare yourself in seeing it with your real eyes, rubbing them the whole day long. Sure, you already are mistreating them. Then the Arctic floe is melting, the Antarctic loses its mighty ice shelves, tsunamis, earthquakes, weather hazards, the permafrost sickles, even in the course of such a snow-rich winter as the last one. Yes, climate change. No, Gaia change. Earth is preparing herself for her returning move back to the needs and the values, the value level of her galactic sisters and brothers. On her surface, much of the deep wounds she will inherit, residues, scars of her willingness to provide a performing stage for humanity, even through its most stupid equilibrations between them atomic bombs and nuclear centers being the worst. Now it's finished. In the first reaction, she is healing herself at last. And from this point of view, what we call the climate change is a blessing. The polar ice caps are melting, so what? That means its polarities are taking leave of their strain, their loneliness. And every soul who desires to develop himself on the back and the shoulders of weightless Gaia is good inspired when he or she succeeded in having achieved the same, having dismantled his personal polarity, and in that way having been a successful apprentice, allowed to enter the reopened Adam Cavern graduate sphere. Anger, hate, rivalry, and abuse of power, and not anymore under my care, so Gaia. Freedom, to be entitled to do anything that not damages someone else, neither me nor yourself. All this doesn't mean Gaia is growing narrow-minded. There will be a moratorium, a transversal period. If at the very end of it there are ones left who can't even appreciate making the best of that, and keeps on finding it much more cooler and exciting to devastate the school itself, for them there is only one solution left. He or she will be escorted to some strange gates into special forms of education. There are enough planets left for that. Those died in the wool arrange themselves already on that weirdy track nowadays. Aren't they seeking such places in space without knowing what they will offer them? Brave new worlds made for arrogant sapienses. In fact, those faraway strange institutions will be no prisons, rather supporting institutions, despite self-boycott being able to find a place somewhere somehow to achieve one's aims all the same. What a detour. But why directly and simple, if complicated, also fits. All wishes are granted.